Hello everybody and welcome back to another Overwatch Weekly. Today I've got a large amount of stuff to talk about, but most of it is related to good old Hero 30 Baptiste. So I want to jump right into all of the new stuff we have for him. The first thing is that today, when you're watching this video, the day it comes out at least, we will be getting a look at all of Baptiste's cosmetics and voice lines, whatnot, all that kind of stuff is going to be added to the PTR. At least seemingly it will. There was a teaser tweet that just said, "Arg, you free Wednesday. Don't be a live lubber and board the PTR as Buccaneer Baptiste or Baptiste." And you should be seeing a video right now that was included with the tweet. You'll notice, of course, that it is not just a skin, which is in this case Buccaneer Baptiste, but also a look at a highlight intro at the end of this clip. So you can see that. That and more will, of course, be on the PTR with sprays, voice lines, all that kind of stuff added in as well. So that's the first thing to look forward to. The other thing Baptiste related that I have for you is that the devs are doing a Q&A on the blog. This is a kind of just, they tweeted out just saying, "It's time for a medical consultation. Do you want to learn more about Baptiste's story or gameplay? The devs will answer your questions in our upcoming Q&A. And it links to a blog post, which you can just go to that in anyway, and it's just post that says, "Good day all. Over the next few days, our devs will be taking some time to address questions surrounding gameplay design and lore revolving around Overwatch's 30th hero, Baptiste. If you have any questions related to this subject, starting now, please reply to this thread below. Additionally, please remember to favorite/like your favorite questions. Answers will be posted at a later time." So, if you want to see any of that, you can find it in the description. There's a tweet linked that should give you all the details you need, and it'll get you to this post. At the moment, no devs have answered any of the questions yet, but I'm sure we'll see answers sometime soon to these questions. I really like when they do this, so I'm excited to see what the next set of Q&A questions we get are for this. Next is an upcoming change to the PTR. It is currently not live. My assumption is it'll go live when all of the Baptiste cosmetics and whatnot go live, but we are getting on the PTR some additional hero changes in addition to all of the ones that we saw. Sorry for moving the mic there. In addition to all the ones that we saw last week with the Baptiste edition. So I'll just go over these. Junkrat Frag Launcher impact damage increased from 40 to 60. Lucio's Speed Song had its effect lowered from 30% to 20%. The Amp It Up Speed Song amped effect reduced from 70% to 50%. And the Wall Ride passive movement speed gained while wall riding increased from 20% to 40%. So the Lucio changes definitely meant to kind of hurt goats a little bit there. McCree had bonus damage ramp from the previous 1.34 change. When that began after 1.5 seconds, down from 2.5. That was a change that had gone on the PTR that they're already changing. Reaper's passive healing amount reduced from 50% to 40%. Symmetra's photon projector primary fire damage ramp speed increased by 20%. I can't speak. Zarya's particle cannon alternate fire radius reduced from 2 to 3 to 1 to 2, which is based on energy level. And Zenyatta's Orb of Discord had its effect reduced from 30% to 25%. And the Orb of Destruction damage increased from 46 to 48. So, I don't know if they are live or not. I haven't seen something that makes me think they're live, but there was a patch on March 1st. It just didn't include any of these, except for the Symmetra one. So they might be live, they might not be live, but I believe they are, now that I think about it. I think they are there, but I did make a video on it last week, last Friday, where I talked about this. So if you want to hear a little bit more in depth based on these changes plus the changes that were live with Baptiste, you can check that out in the description. Video's like 25 minutes long, so maybe a little bit longer than you would, of course, like to listen to, but I just go over some stuff with the meta, how the meta is going to potentially change around Baptiste and these other hero changes, and the feature of goats, all that kind of stuff. So that's in the description as well as in the cards. You can check that out. Next is a bit of blog updates. Quite a few of them, actually, about several different topics from several different devs. So the first one, this comes from Derek Mulder, who is an Overwatch developer. And he commented on a post called Knockback Observations as requested by Jeff. And Illinest said, "Excellent. I had no idea how broken the momentum felt until I played it yesterday on the PTR. I don't want to go back to live. I'm afraid this might result in increased complaints about environmental kills at first, but in time I believe greater consistency will make it easier for players to anticipate the effects of each individual bump. It'll be great when Ryan's hammer and D.Va's booster don't randomly send you either 10 meters or 2 meters down the hall, depending on whether you happen to be strafing left or right at the moment of the hit. Best change, great work." And Derek Mulder commented, "Hi everyone. I'd like to clarify a few points and give some more details on exactly what the new knockback behavior changes." Now, this is kind of confusing, so I'm going to put some images on of what he's saying when I get to the parts where I want you to see it, because it's a little weird, but just bear with me here. Previously, knockbacks generally worked as a simple impulse. This is what caused characters to fly away faster if they were moving away, or much less far at the time of the knockback if they were moving towards the knockback. In the new system, the movement pre-knockback doesn't matter, but only in the direction of the knockback. Any movement that is not either into or away from the knockback is not affected. Now, what that means is, of course, if a D.Va is flying towards me, I can strafe right, I can strafe left, but if I'm not moving away from D.Va or towards D.Va, that knockback won't be impacted, which I think is smart. Makes sense to me. And then he follows up by saying, "What didn't change is the ability to fight back against the knockback. Once knocked back, you still have the ability to accelerate back towards where you came from." So this is what I'm going to show you on screen here, because this is where I get confused. I don't really understand what this means, so if any of you understand it, please let me know, because I don't really get it. But what he says is rough knockback distance equivalents. PTR, moving into or away from knockback or stationary, and live is stationary. So what I interpret that is what he's saying is if you're not moving, or if you're moving closer to or away from the knockback, you'll get hit a certain amount. Whereas if you're on live, it's just that amount would only be if you were stationary. And then on the PTR, he says moving into or away from knockback or stationary, immediately accelerate into the knockback when hit, and then says live, stationary, immediately accelerate into the knockback when hit. So I don't really this is where I don't really understand it. So if you understand it better than I do, that would be hopefully helpful, because it to me is kind of confusing and really doesn't make a whole lot of sense in terms of what they're saying. I never really found knockback to be a weird issue, but then again, I don't really understand the physics behind it, so there's that. He closes this part of the post by saying, "Additionally, D.Va using boosters and Mercy and Valkyrie are currently the only flying modes we have. Nothing has changed with regards to how Pharah or jumping heroes behave in the air." So there were some other posts about it, of course. One of them is a response to a question about specifically Doomfist, where the question is, "Glad you clarified this. How does this change affect Doomfist, specifically his seismic slam? When his enemies were given air control during the pop-up, it became incredibly frustrating that they could strafe away from Doomfist and basically not get pulled at all." To which he says, "There's currently an issue causing seismic slam to not pull people in quite like they're supposed to. A fix for it is in the works." So that is everything he has here on the knockback stuff, but there are also some things coming from Jeff. This is Jeff Kaplan, not Jeff Goodman. So, this post comes from Moist for Moira, and it is called Role Queue Compromise. Now, this is a longer post, so I'll try to read it somewhat quickly and cut out stuff that doesn't need to be mentioned. But he says, how about tuning the matchmaker to take into account the most played heroes on a person's account to sort of soft role queue players into games where the composition would end up as a 2-2-2 naturally? If someone has a certain percent of their playtime on a certain role, the matchmaker would classify them as that role and not match more than 2 players with the same role on a team. So example, 3 players play tank mostly, 3 play support mostly, and 6 play damage mostly. The matchmaker sorts them so team A is 2 of the tank, 2 of the support, 2 of the damage, and etc. And the last 2 damage players are matched to a different lobby, another tank and support matched into this lobby. This would most likely result in slightly longer queue times, but probably not by more than a minute. I think any truly competitive player would prefer a balanced game with a 5-minute queue than an imbalanced game with a 1-minute queue. These examples are a little bit on the extreme end, but you get the idea. This would eliminate the complaints about role queue, auto-lock 4 DPS comps, and imbalanced games where you have 4 support mains, and your team is unable to match the enemy team that got a lucky dice roll and ended up with a variety of players. Thoughts? So Jeff has a somewhat long comment, but it's a good comment, and it's kind of why I think role queue is such an interesting thing and why it's in such a weird limbo in terms of how it would work. Jeff says, thanks for the suggestion. It's actually one we've debated on the team. One concern we have is anytime we, the Overwatch team, make assumptions about what you want to do without giving you some agency in the situation. Our concern is we believe there are a number of players who want to or like to play different roles, but because they are thinking of the good of the team, they flex to needed roles. A player like this, under your design suggestion, is going to end up always having to play tank or support. We really want to avoid design solutions that further and reinforce players being forced to play roles they don't intend to. I hope this explanation makes sense. To use myself as an example, by your suggestion, I am a tank main because most of my playtime is on tanks. But I really love playing healers and damage heroes as well. I would be worried if the game just assumed I should be playing tank all the time because I did it so much previously. Mostly to be a good teammate, not because that's what I wanted to do. Hope that makes sense. And there were some other several comments on this that Jeff responded to. One of them was, Jeff, just wondering, does the Overwatch team have any Symmetra mains? To which Jeff said, regarding Symmetra main question, our live ops producer has 700 hours on her. And another question that he responds to is, regarding the role queue, have you and your team considered separate role SRs, similar to, say, Splatoon 2's separate ranks for modes, or do you intend to keep us to 1 SR per account? Now, little side tangent here. Did not expect anyone on these Overwatch forums to mention Splatoon, but I really like that they mentioned that, because that is one of the features about Splatoon 2 and Splatoon that I really liked, is that there's different ranked modes, and you have different ranks in those different ranked modes, because you might be better at one and worse at another, and they just said, hey, we can physically do that. I think it's a good idea, but Jeff says, if we did do role queue, we would separate SRs. This is one of the things I think would be really fun, plus make the game way more balanced and improve matchmaking. So that is, to my knowledge, everything from Jeff Kaplan. On the topic of all of those PTR hero changes, there's a bunch of stuff from Jeff Goodman where he kind of follows up on those. So to go over a few of those things, obviously, I know we talked about the post a little bit ago, but there's not... it's understandable, obviously. So, for one, Jeff Goodman called the Symmetra photon projector something that it wasn't, and so someone was really confused, and he just said that's an internal name that they use. Another one came from a response to just McCree, where he talked about the McCree damage thing, and someone said this seems a bit crazy. Any hot takes? To which Josh No, not Jeff Goodman actually, said on this. These are actually all Josh No. I said it was Jeff Goodman, but some of them are Jeff Goodman, some of them are Josh No. Josh No on this one responds saying, the McCree Deadeye change makes it more effective against targets with HP higher than 250, It reaches 500 damage at about 2 seconds now. It used to take 2.4 seconds. Josh Snow also responds to one that says, as a Lucio player, I think this was justified. For Junkrat, does this mean he now does 140 damage per grenade? To which Josh Snow said, yep, Junkrat now does 140 damage per direct hit. Impact is 60, explosion is still 80. Another one comes from the question, which is the unit of measurement. Someone was with the Zarya particle cannon alternate fire reduction. Josh No said this is in-game meters for comparison. Junkrat explosions have a 2-meter radius. And Jeff Goodman responds to one about Lucio, saying about the Lucio wall ride. Just said, yeah, the Lucio wall ride just appeared, and he said, yep, sorry, forgot this note. The change sets his wall speed to roughly as it was before the speed song nerf, but it's actually a decent buff because it affects you while you're in heal song as well. So that's just a little quick kind of rundown of stuff that's been going on the Overwatch forums. There's a lot of stuff, though. There's actually a lot of stuff with the addition of Baptiste and this huge PTR update. There's a lot of stuff that you can check out there. So I'll have a link in the description to the forums in general if you want to check that stuff out. Not any of the particular ones I talked about, but just the forums in general, you can check those out. But the final thing I want to talk about is Paris. The new map is now available to play in competitive. So if you've been waiting for Paris and competitive, it is now here. And that now is everything that I have for you. Hopefully, like I said, I'll be able to get a video out tomorrow where I can show you all the different cosmetics and whatnot and the unlockable items for Baptiste. But until then, I'm going to get out of here. So if you enjoyed, consider liking and subscribing. Helps out a lot. But I'll see you all in the next video. And bye-bye.